I walked into my home office that Tuesday morning expecting to review contracts. Instead, I found my assistant Alina copying files from my laptop while whispering into her phone. My heart stopped. The message on the screen read, "Found what we needed. Tonight. Adrian. My ex-husband. The man I'd spent 3 years rebuilding my life to escape." My hands went numb. I realized in that single moment that the woman I'd trusted with my business passwords, my schedule, my family's privacy, had never been working for me at all. She was working against me. Alina's eyes lifted from the screen. Her smug expression mirrored something I recognized too well. The same calculating smile Adrian wore when he thought he was winning. She froze. I froze. And in that silence, everything clicked into place. Every missed deadline. Every lost file. Every client who suddenly seemed confused about our agreements. She had been orchestrating it all from inside my own office, sitting just 10 feet from where my son did his homework. My name is Renee Bennett. I'm a small business owner, a single mother, and someone who has learned the hard way that trust is both a strength and a weapon. 3 years ago, I left Adrian, a man whose love came wrapped in control, whose affection was conditional, whose kindness disappeared the moment I stopped doing exactly what he wanted. Rebuilding afterward wasn't just about opening a business. It was about proving to myself that I could survive without him. My company, Bennett and Associates, grew faster than I expected. We handled marketing strategy for mid-sized companies. The work was challenging. The success was real. I thought I'd finally found peace. Then I hired Alina 6 months ago, thinking I was hiring help. I was actually inviting my enemy into my home. She seemed perfect on paper, professional references, relevant experience, this calm, reassuring energy that made me feel like I could finally breathe. I had no idea she was already inside Adrian's orbit, already knowing things about my business that she shouldn't have known, already working on a plan I couldn't see coming. I remember Alina's job interview like it happened yesterday. She walked into my office wearing a simple black blazer, her notebook already filled with notes about my company. She asked thoughtful questions. She knew my client's name. She knew my revenue brackets. She knew about the expansion I was planning, the one I hadn't posted anywhere, hadn't told anyone, hadn't even fully committed to yet. "I've always admired what you're building," she'd said with this soft smile. A woman rebuilding her life independently. That takes courage. I believed her. I thought she was a kindred spirit. She knew details about my business that made no sense unless someone close to Adrian had been feeding her information. Her calmness during the interview, her easy confidence, the way she seemed to already know how I worked, it all felt like fate. Like the universe was finally giving me a break. I offered her the job that same day. She started the following Monday. Within 2 weeks, I was wondering how I'd ever managed without her. She organized my files perfectly. She remembered details I forgot. She anticipated my needs. She was exactly what I thought I needed. She was exactly what I didn't. The first problems were small enough that I almost missed them. An invoice from a key client went missing just as they were deciding whether to renew their contract. A crucial email about a merger got delayed in Alina's inbox for 3 days. 3 days that cost me a deal. Then there were the stranger things. One afternoon, a client emailed me asking why I'd canceled our agreement. I never had. I called them immediately. They insisted they'd received confirmation from my email address. That night I checked my sent folder. The email existed. I supposedly wrote it. My handwriting, my tone, my signature. But I had absolutely no memory of sending it. When I asked Alina about it, she frowned with genuine seeming concern. "You've been working so hard lately, Renee. Maybe you need more sleep." Her voice was so gentle, so reasonable. For a moment, I actually wondered if I was losing my mind. Maybe I was overworked. Maybe I had sent that email and forgotten. My old life with Adrian had trained me well to doubt myself. That habit came roaring back. I started second-guessing my own decisions, my own memory, my own judgment. Everything became clearer when I visited my sister-in-law, Diane. I hadn't seen her since the divorce, but she reached out asking to meet for coffee. I thought maybe she wanted to reconcile. Instead, she spent 40 minutes gloating about Adrian's new relationship, his new house, his new life, carefully constructed details designed to sting. Then, right before I left, she leaned in with this smug smile and said, "Adrian has someone close watching your business moves. He wanted you to know he's still 10 steps ahead. My stomach dropped. She wasn't warning me. She was threatening me. I drove straight home. My hands were shaking as I parked in the driveway. When I walked into the kitchen, Alina was there, making tea like nothing was wrong. I tried to act normal, but my eyes were scanning everything. That's when I saw it. Alina's purse was open on the counter. Inside, a silver bracelet caught the light. I'd seen that bracelet before. Diane wore the exact same one. Identical. The realization hit me like a punch. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a connection. This was betrayal wrapped up in a job title and a professional smile. I confronted Alina that evening. I kept my voice calm, but inside I was screaming. I showed her the bracelet I'd taken from her purse. "You know my sister-in-law?" I asked quietly. Alina's face shifted. For just a second I saw something real flicker across her expression, guilt maybe, or calculation. Then she smiled. That infuriating, patient smile. "Renee, you're overworked," she said softly. "You're connecting dots that don't exist. That bracelet was a gift from someone else. You must have forgotten to approve that client email. Stress does that to people. You should rest." Her calmness unnerved me more than anger would have. She was so composed, so reasonable, speaking to me like I was the unreliable one. And that voice, the same gaslighting technique Adrian had perfected during our marriage. For just a moment I believed her. My own doubt was worse than her betrayal. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Unknown message. "She's not who you think she is." Just that. No explanation. No signature. Just someone somewhere throwing me a lifeline. I traced that phone number to a man named Marcus who used to work in Adrian's company. He agreed to meet me at a coffee shop an hour away from my office. When he sat down across from me, I could see genuine concern in his eyes. "Adrian's been buying access to your data," he said without preamble. "He has someone reporting to him about your business decisions, your client communications, your personal life. He doesn't just want your company to fail, Renee. He wants you broken. He wants you desperate enough to crawl back to him." Marcus told me everything. He explained how Adrian had mentioned his plan months ago, how he talked about having someone on the inside, how he described watching me come apart. Adrian's obsession hadn't ended with the divorce. It had transformed into something darker, more calculated, more dangerous. "He thinks if he destroys what you've built, you'll realize you need him," Marcus said. "He's still trapped in this fantasy where you belong to him." I listened to every word, and with each sentence the picture became clearer. Alina wasn't just an assistant. She was a weapon Adrian had sharpened and pointed at my heart. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to the sounds of my house, wondering how many times Alina had snooped through my drawers, photographed my documents, reported my movements. Around 2 in the morning, I heard her on the phone downstairs. I crept to the hallway and listened. Her voice was a whisper but audible. "She's breaking down faster than he expected," she said into her phone. "She's doubting herself now. He'll have her back in his pocket by next month." I pulled out my phone and recorded every word. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the device steady. Then I called my best friend Cassie, who happened to be a lawyer. I played her the recording. "Don't say anything to Alina," Cassie instructed. "Not yet. We need more evidence. We need to trap them." Cassie and I devised a plan. We created fake emails discussing a fictional business expansion to South America. We planted details about a fake investment opportunity in a document Alina would definitely access. Within 24 hours, I received an email from Adrian's lawyer referencing the South American expansion, the one that didn't exist. The trap had worked perfectly. They were feeding each other false information, confirming that Alina was indeed passing everything directly to Adrian. The proof was undeniable now. But we weren't ready to move yet. We needed more. We needed everything. We documented every suspicious email, every missed deadline, every impossible coincidence. We tracked every file that went missing and reappeared later, altered. Cassie advised patience. "Let them think they're winning," she said. "Let them get comfortable. Let them make bigger mistakes." A week later, I discovered that my company accounts were being audited for inconsistencies. I called my accountant in a panic. That's when I learned someone had accessed my financial software using admin credentials. Credentials only Alina had. Money hadn't been stolen, but files had been moved, reports altered, records changed just enough to create confusion. Then one night I found Alina at midnight in my home office, shredding papers. She didn't even try to hide it. "Spring cleaning," she said pleasantly. I watched her feed document after document into the machine, my financial records, my contracts, my correspondence. My blood ran cold thinking about what those papers contained. If she was destroying physical evidence, it meant they were escalating. It meant something was about to happen. Something big. The next day, my son came home from school and mentioned something casually. "Mom, Alina took pictures of our family board yesterday. She said she wanted to see your planning method." The family board hung in my home office. It contained legal strategies, upcoming court dates, details about my custody arrangement, notes about potential client opportunities, private information that Adrian could weaponize instantly. My son had no idea what he'd just told me. He thought Alina was just being friendly. I pulled up Alina's cloud storage using credentials she'd carelessly left saved on the home computer. The photos were all there. Dozens of them. Screenshots of my business plans, my family photos, my personal journal entries. Every private moment of my life, documented and stored like evidence she was collecting for a case. My chest felt tight. This wasn't just corporate espionage anymore. This was an invasion. This was a violation. This was someone deliberately stealing pieces of my soul. I confronted Alina that evening in the kitchen. This time I was calm in a different way. I didn't panic. I was dangerous. I played the recording Cassie had helped me analyze. Alina's voice came through the speaker. "She's breaking down faster than he expected." Alina didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just said quietly, "He said you'd say that." Then she grabbed her jacket and walked out the door. But before she left, she placed her phone on the kitchen counter. Unlocked. Like an invitation. Like she wanted me to know what I'd find there. Or maybe she didn't care anymore. Either way, I picked it up. Alina's messages were organized like a report. Detailed observations about my mood, my decisions, my vulnerabilities. Timestamps of when she'd accessed files. Screenshots she'd taken of my personal journal. A payment confirmation showing Adrian had given her $50,000. And photos, so many photos. Photos of me looking tired, photos of my son at school, photos of my business documents. The last message in her thread with Adrian read, "She's planning something. Handle it before she does." I screenshotted everything. I forwarded it to Cassie. Then I sat in my kitchen and cried, not for myself, but for the violation of it all. How many people did Adrian have working for him? How deep did this conspiracy go? And most importantly, what was he planning next? Cassie and I met at her office the next morning. We made copies of everything. We documented dates and times. We prepared legal paperwork. We backed up files in case anything disappeared. We were building a fortress of evidence, brick by brick, proof by proof. Then Adrian showed up at my office. He walked in like he still owned the place, wearing that same confident smile I remembered from when I loved him. His security team stayed in the hallway. "Renee," he said warmly, like we were old friends. "We should talk about the business. I think it should have been ours together. I'd like to buy you out. Make you a very wealthy woman. You could focus on raising our son properly." His words were poison-coated in honey. He was offering me money to disappear. He was offering me comfort in exchange for humiliation. I looked at him across my desk and said something I'd been waiting 3 years to say. "You already took my peace. You won't take away my purpose." Adrian's smile never wavered. "You'll regret saying that," he said softly. Then he left. Within 3 days, anonymous posts started appearing online attacking my company. People I'd never met were writing reviews claiming Bennett and Associates was unethical and unstable. Several clients pulled their contracts. My phone was ringing constantly with concerned employees asking if the company was failing. That's when the subpoena arrived. Adrian was suing me for defamation. He was claiming I'd started the rumors myself to damage his reputation. The irony was suffocating. Here was Adrian orchestrating a complete demolition of my life, and now he was painting himself as my victim. But Cassie just smiled when she read the subpoena. "He's panicking," she said. Good people panic when they're about to lose. I broke down in my car one afternoon. Months of pressure, months of betrayal, months of fighting. It all collapsed at once. I sat in the parking lot behind my office building and cried until I couldn't breathe. My son's drawing fell out of my purse. He'd drawn it for me months ago. A stick figure of me with bright yellow hair and enormous glasses, standing next to a light bulb. In his careful handwriting he'd written, "You're the bravest, Mom." I held that drawing in my shaking hands and whispered to myself, he picked the wrong woman to destroy. Then I dried my tears, fixed my makeup and went back to work. Because that's what brave people do. They show up. They keep going. They refuse to let anyone define their ending but themselves. Cassie brought in a tech expert named Vincent who specialized in digital forensics. He did something magical with Alina's old phone, recovering deleted messages, tracing encrypted conversations, following the digital trail backward. What he found was a conspiracy stretching back 18 months. Alina had been in contact with Adrian before I even hired her. They'd planned every detail. There were messages discussing which files to prioritize, which confidential information would hurt me most, which vulnerabilities to exploit. But there was more. There were messages discussing what came next. Adrian had plans for my custody arrangement. He had contacts in places I didn't expect. Vincent warned me that according to the messages, something big was scheduled for the following week. At the board meeting, Adrian's lawyer had planned to present new evidence about my fitness as a business owner. Evidence that would destroy my credibility. They were moving to checkmate. I walked into that board meeting on a Wednesday morning feeling calmer than I had in months. The board members were already seated, my accountant, 2 business advisors, and a representative from my largest client. Adrian sat at the far end of the table with his lawyer. Alina stood beside him, pretending this was all business. But I could see the calculation in her eyes. They thought they had me cornered. They thought the evidence would speak for itself. They thought I'd crumble under the weight of their accusation. I clicked my remote. The projector lit up with the first screenshot. One of Alina's messages. She's breaking down faster than he expected. The room went silent. I clicked through screenshot after screenshot. The payment Adrian had given Alina. The messages about photographing my personal journal. The emails discussing my vulnerability and Adrian's plan to bring me back. I played audio recordings of Alina on the phone with Adrian, discussing the details of her espionage in casual, friendly tones like they were discussing the weather. Adrian's lawyer's face went white. Adrian himself looked like someone had just pulled the foundation out from under his world. One board member stood up and walked out immediately. Another was shaking his head in disgust. I looked directly at Alina and said quietly, "You wanted a report? Here's the final one." The fallout was immediate and total. Adrian's lawyer sent a letter admitting Adrian wanted to withdraw his lawsuit immediately. Adrian's own business partners started distancing themselves from him. His reputation, carefully constructed over decades, collapsed in hours. The anonymous posts about my company disappeared. My clients started calling back, apologizing, asking to reinstate their contracts. Newspapers picked up the story. Local businesswoman exposes corporate espionage scheme. My name was everywhere, but this time for the right reasons. I was the victim who fought back. I was the woman who didn't crumble. I was proof that betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of something stronger. Adrian tried one final move. He sent me a message through his lawyer threatening to destroy me in court and to expose private details about our marriage. It was desperate. I was angry. It was everything he'd been holding back. But Cassie had already filed papers first. She documented the harassment, the espionage, the attempted fraud. The court didn't need to hear from Adrian anymore. They'd already made up their minds. Adrian lost the case completely. More importantly, he lost his custody privileges pending a full investigation into his behavior. The judge called his scheme premeditated corporate espionage with elements of psychological abuse. Her words were a hammer dropping on his chest. The courtroom scene happened on a gray Tuesday morning. Adrian sat across from me, looking thinner than I remembered, older, defeated. His lawyer presented evidence after evidence that I'd already prepared. I calmly testified about everything: the manipulation, the betrayal, the photographs, the planted emails. When it was over, the judge looked directly at Adrian and said, "This court finds the defendant guilty of corporate espionage, fraud, and harassment. Additionally, Miss Bennett is hereby cleared of all allegations of defamation." She paused. "And Miss Bennett, you are hereby cleared of all allegations. Your reputation is restored. This court supports your right to rebuild your life without interference." Adrian's hands were shaking as he gripped the table. He'd lost everything. 6 months later, everything had changed. Adrian's company had been investigated and shut down pending restructuring. His name was toxic in business circles. Alina had left the city without a word, disappearing into a life somewhere I didn't care to know about. My business, on the other hand, had tripled in size. Clients wanted to work with the woman who'd stood up to corruption. Employees felt safer with someone who fought for justice. My son asked fewer questions. My sleep came easier. I'd rebuilt my life once before, but this time I'd done it while fighting. This time I'd won. I received a letter one afternoon forwarded through Cassie's office. The return address was generic, the handwriting shaky. It was from Alina. The letter was 4 pages long. In it, Alina explained that Adrian had manipulated her with promises of money and a better life. She'd been struggling financially when he found her. He'd offered her $50,000 to spend 6 months working for me, gathering information. She said she'd convinced herself she was just helping someone climb higher than a woman like me deserved to climb. She admitted to hating me for having what she didn't: independence, confidence, a son, a business, a life that seemed complete. She'd wanted to destroy it because she couldn't build her own. By the end of the letter, she was asking for forgiveness. She'd written, "I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to know that you were right to fight back. You were stronger than I could ever be." I read that letter once. Then I folded it carefully, walked to my fireplace, and burned it. I watched the pages turn black and crumble into ash. Then I said softly, "Forgiveness isn't for you. It's for me." And I meant it completely. 1 year later, I walked my son to school on a bright morning. The sun was warm on my face. My business was flourishing. My confidence had returned completely. As we rounded the corner near the park, I saw Adrian across the street. He looked different, thinner, tired, avoided by the people around him. He saw me and quickly looked away, unable to meet my eyes. My son didn't notice. He was talking about his soccer game. I reached down and squeezed his hand gently. Adrian had sent someone to watch me fall. Instead, she'd watched me rise. And that, I realized, was the only ending that mattered. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just the quiet knowledge that I'd survived. I'd fought. And I'd won.